mean, I was reading some of what you've written on your Catalyst site, your dance company site, and I can't remember where it was exactly, but you're kind of talking about dirt, okay? And dirt, for New Yorkers is a real issue, right? I mean, to get dirty and rats and versus muskrats. I mean, we were talking about muskrats yesterday, and are having the disinfectant, all the time, and we're living in the flu epidemic, So there's this sense of contagion or getting dirty, but your sense of dirt is very different, right?
I come from Alaska, this place that I love dearly, and I don't get to spend as much time there as I would like. But I can put myself in a place where I'm thinking about the dirt right under me here, the ground right under me here, and that ground is connected to this place that I intimately know and intimately love. And so in some way I can be in that place. I can be here with you, but I can also be there at the same time. And because it is connected, and I can feel that connection, and that, again, is, I don't know, it's sacred, but it's also very real, it's very true, it's very practical, it's, and in that way, like, you can think of this ground and think of how it spreads across all of us and is supporting all of us, and we could all do that. We can all be in many places at once. We could think about places that we care about and think places that we love, and then we could maybe extend that care to the place that we are, and we're trying to let that, imagining what that ground actually feels like on our feet, we're trying to let that come up all the way up through the building, up into our legs and our feet and our body and our heads and change what we're doing a little bit. It's also about making up stories, do you remember the trees that used to be here or something, which are real, right? That story's real, the trees are real. They might not physically be there anymore, but they were, and some part of us can remember that. And so offering that as a real remembering, whether or not we've actually seen those trees or those, animals that used to live where BAC is right now, is part of it. So is bringing people who actually live here in the city into the piece, even just for a moment. So I think in all of those ways, trying to root a little bit a performance that really comes from my mind, comes from elsewhere, and comes here. But how can it then root here, and then have an effect here? Like I do think that dances can have an effect in place.
But in some ways, we're celebrating in that space. Oh, it's wonderful to see your performance. The past really doesn't matter. This is a place for modernity in some ways. So what drives you to want to understand what's underneath the art center there? I mean, why bother, really?
Everything about that place, about this place here, is holding us now. Like, we've come and we've gathered here in this particular place and moment, and that's a really, that can be such a really powerful and interesting thing to contemplate. And we can't then ignore everything that allowed for that to happen. I make a little joke in Nichogni about there used to be a different dance here. And I'm talking about two things at one time, which is the dance. I think Doug Elkins was there before we were, so his dance was right there in that space, right? But then the Lenape dances that were there prior to that, or the thousands or millions of other dances that have happened to be in that place, and they're all there at the same time again. Like, my dance is now part of that locale, and it is, right now it's there and it's talking with those other dances that have happened there. And I firmly believe that, and so I can't not acknowledge that as I'm making things or as I'm presenting things. I don't want people to just come and watch my body move around. That's not very interesting to me. But if my body moving around can then be in conversation somehow with thoughts and actions from past and from future, then that becomes interesting to me. A better way to watch my dances is not like this. It's not with sight that goes like this and bores a hole. It's through the corners of the eyes. You have to watch it like this. And you have to watch it with a willingness to turn your head. If you don't, then you're not actually watching it. And you do have to then sense something back here. And you do have to sense, smell and memory, and you do have to have a kinesthetic sense, and maybe you're holding something, so then you're also touching and you're hearing, of course, so it is all senses, and rather like this than like this, that all of the senses are.
Yeah. Well, talk about the salmon lamps, because they're really amazing to me. For those of you who haven't seen the performance, there are these delicate, beautiful lamps that are made out of the skins of salmon that are stitched together, and the lights go on at different points in the performance, and music, I guess, comes out of some of them as well. But there's all a process of doing of kind of creating them, and they're as much a part of the performance that are present in one form. So in a sense, they're part of the performance. They're not just the background set.
There are 51 of them now, and people would volunteer for 4 or 5 days at a time to learn this process, to have a feast, to talk about what this thing was I was making, to talk about fish, to talk about Alaska, to talk about wherever we were, Vermont, Arizona, Alaska, California, to talk about each other's work, There are kids and like age range from 9 to someone in their 80s, It was like, that was such a valuable process, and now everyone who volunteered, like their physical energy and their story is within these objects too, and you're right, like that story may not be told within the presentation of Nichungni, but that story is there, and their energy is there, and those objects now hold that, and those objects, I don't know, when I look at them, they can become, they're very simple, but then they become like the whole world at the same time. But
that connection to the particularity, that individuality of that salmon, and what journey that salmon had taken to get there, right? So for me, intellectually, I know salmons run, they come back, somehow we haven't been very good at, keeping those pathways open, et cetera, all that I know, right? But I never thought about that individual salmon before until I think your performance,
I'm so glad that you received that from.
Yeah.
It's about here, and so like it has to merge place and time and body and history, and so why not try all of that? I think.